welcome. What we're going to be talking about is remembering who we are, our pre-birth memories, and in particular we're going to be looking at questions around like, are we predestined personality, and before we're born and when we're born, and do we remember what we've forgotten? Yeah, do we choose our lives? Do we not? How does it work? Okay, with more. So when you're ready, Francis, you can rock on.
Once again, it is my privilege and pleasure to come and spend these few moments of your time. It is always a good practice to be aware of what one is thinking, because, shall we say, you are online the whole time within your fields of influence, that is your personal, the local environment, and the mass creation. So one's thoughts, ideas are already and perpetually being broadcast out into the world, enough to begin a conversation.
Thank you, Meg. So our topic today is around pre-birth memories and near-death experiences. So when we come into this life as infants, do we remember our last incarnation and slowly forget it? Or are we a blank slate when we're first born?
First of all, let me remind everyone the primary law of creation is everything is a paradox. That essentially means that the physical world is both here and not here, that time does not exist and yet has its appearances, that lifetimes then are dependent on a stream of time. So shall we say then, once one begins to understand the principles, it becomes clear that lifetimes, shall we say, are resonant frequencies that populate the infinite nature of time. So shall we say then, when one awakens, that is, one's consciousness arrives at a focal point within the framework of space and time, one comes in with, shall we call it, a certain purpose that is built from one's resonances with previous lifetimes that one, shall we say, resonates with. And for this reason, shall we say, there are many incarnations with a certain claim on the lifetimes of famous characters in one's written history. So it does not mean that one has the lifetime and many others are simply in delusions, but that everyone is collectively working through the responsibilities and the resonances of unfinished nature that resides in the space-time location deep in historical framework. And so shall we say, when one comes into the physical awakening, that is, when one arrives in consciousness, there are frequencies and attractions that one may either be aware of or become aware of, or are simply unaware of. Enough on that perspective.
Thank you. So, are we predestined as a personality based on those frameworks?
There is no predestination from outside sources. One is completely the creator of one's personal universe, that is both in framework, both in characteristics, both in time and location. So one chooses, shall we say, one's framework, that is the parents, the family dynamics, the order of one's descent into the family and so on, are all, shall we call, predestined by self. So one chooses what one is going to be in terms of, excuse the body, in terms of, shall we say, one's gender, one's sequence, shall we say, in the family, whether one is the firstborn or the lastborn or the middle or a large family or whatever, that is the best phase, shall we say, to understand and to work through one's purpose within the lifetime. So shall we say one is an essential piece within the jigsaw of infinity. That should suffice.
Okay, thank you. So with that understanding that we choose it and we basically, I was going to say co-create, but we create our purpose in where we land in the space-time continuum. Do we choose, as you say, specific lessons that we didn't learn in the previous incarnation, that we didn't learn then, to then practice more?
You understand, when you recognize the resonance rather than as if one is the very other lifetime, then one is not responsible for another's choices or creation. One is co-creating, shall we say, with the historical framework practice to complete the lessons for all humanity, for all of creation in effect. So shall we say then that one chooses one's family co-creating with the acceptance within such a family. And oftentimes these are family dramas as such. They are choosing a certain resonant pattern that is within a previous framework. So often then one comes in with the resonances of a different relationship in historical terms. You understand, from the outside, this looks exceedingly complicated. but from the inner workings of consciousness, it is ideal. And like all things ideal, it is quite a simple process from that perspective. So shall we say this? Whenever there is a set of ideas that require a framework of either space or time, it is, shall we say, within the creative forces that make it so. Consciousness awakes within that structure. So consciousness is creating the form in both space and time. That is, if you like, how energy manifests. In other words, there is no such thing as a creation outside of time and space. Does it shine light on that subject?
Yes, it brings more clarity. Thank you. So within that, consciousness shapes itself into the experience of
That is true.
continuing to learn through that resonance.
For the benefit of the whole.
Yes.
That is through for personal gain as such, because, shall we say, the choice that one descends into from consciousness itself has certain uplifting benefits for overcoming difficulties. So shall we say those spirits with, shall we say, great bravery take on some of the most difficult qualities to overcome in a lifetime. While it might seem from outside of why would anyone choose such a thing, from the inside, it has great benefits, shall we say, and upliftment. So you often hear it produced, shall we say, that that someone coming in with a disability must have been a bad person in another lifetime. But in many cases, I want to say in the majority of cases, such a person comes in with to develop a specific quality that is difficult to bring to the surface in fully able beings. So there is an inner benefit that cannot be perceived from outside of it, and often even from the experiential experience of it, it is not often perceived. And so it is, shall we say, with those beings that come in for only a short period of time. It is of great understanding of the nature of, shall we say, the physical limitations, and also, shall we say, for a quality of bringing into the family dynamic great beings are often able to see others with greater compassion than is normal.
Right. Okay. So with that knowing of our individual experiences in the family, and we're resonating from the past, historical resonance, do we have a way of remembering who we were or what resonances we had come from?
Of course. And when one does, one can, shall we say, identify within. Let me put it a different way. Every life form is the descent of consciousness into a focal point. So shall we say one traverses history to a place where one is resonating and descends into it as a focal point. One is now that resonance. One is completely experiencing that focal point and not the present time focal point at all. You understand what I mean? So one can be completely engulfed in that experience. Now, shall we say, one is not the resonance of it, one is the totality of the lifetime. Do you understand what I mean? So one is now, shall we say, in the future of that resonance, shall we say, one is focalized in it, one can perceive, if one were to put one's attention on it, a resonance coming from its future. Do you understand what I'm getting at? So, shall we say, the life experience is dependent on consciousness within a focal framework. That is what makes it real in time and space. Do you understand? So from this point of time and space, a past life does not seem real in the same sense as the reality you experience. But when one travels into the focal point at that time, it becomes real in terms of time and space. Do you understand? That is what resonance is.
Okay. So how do we travel back to the past resonance?
First of all, identify the resonance. Where does this behavior or experience I am having come from? Let us say I am experiencing, shall we say, a car accident. One is having some suffering, some pain, and so forth, and one is projected into a time. Let us say it is a time where there is an accident that happens in the factory that you are owning. Some child, some young girl or whatever loses her life, and you simply add it into the records. That is, what it is a cost to the factory of losing such a worker. One has no compassion for that whatsoever. That leaves that resonance uncompleted in that lifetime. So here you are, shall we say, having experienced the results of accidents and looking for some sympathy and compassion. However one, shall we say, experiences and deals with the present time will have influence on that lifetime. For example, if you truly realize and acknowledge one's personal part to play in the accident, then one will influence the nature of that in the past. And shall we say, that influence can even change the minds of that experience in the past. So your present awareness affects the awareness of one's resonant character. Do you follow what I'm getting at?
Yes.
So shall we say then, whatever one deals with awareness and compassion and love and higher thinking will release tied up energy across the time history spectrum. Humankind's then are completing long framework energetic systems. Again, it is seemingly complicated, technical, and so on. And yet, if you simply consider one's behavior in the present time, am I leaving behind anything that some future being has to return and complete? That, shall I say, is true spiritual awakening.
Thank you, Mercredan. Thank you for your time today. Sorry we didn't get time to ask some other questions. We'll look at those in the future.
Then once again, what an important topic to explore in terms of one's connection to the whole being of life. Thank you, and good morning from this time here.
Thank you. Please be sure to please and like our video and subscribe. That really helps us to continue what we're doing. And please join us for our next live stream on Tuesday next week, New Zealand time. Just look up where your time scale is on that too. We look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.